Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being with us. Today is day 7 of the partial government shutdown. The White House is, with each passing day, being accused of abusing power as the president forces the closure of open-air monuments and private businesses, even forcing the removal of elderly folks from the homes they own. The National Park Service, acting on White House orders, is obviously trying to inflict as much discomfort and as much pain as possible on citizens, blaming it all on the partial government shutdown. There are exceptions to the president's campaign of pain, and they seem in each instance to be either supporters of the president or aligned with the special interests that he favors. Tonight, we'll take up the imperious Obama presidency and the power he is concentrating increasingly within the White House. Also tonight, a triple-digit sell-off on Wall Street to begin this week. The president played politics, warning the markets about the government shutdown and debt ceiling last week. Here tonight, we'll examine whether investors have listened, what price investors may pay for this administration's campaign of pain as it extends to Wall Street. The Obama Justice Department goes after the man who blew the whistle on the government gun-running operation known as Fast and Furious. Attorney General Holder and the Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms Agency are trying to block the whistleblower's book on what really happened in the Fast and Furious operation and why the Obama administration is standing in his way. And as you see in this video, a nightmare on the track and in the stands, a horrific crash in the final lap of the Houston Grand Prix, spilling into the stands, injuring driver Dario Franchitti and at least a dozen fans. The extent of those injuries, however, may turn out to be a small miracle. That story coming up here tonight. Turning to our lead story, President Obama, intent on inflicting as much pain as possible on the American public, apparently trying to prove a political point on this partial government shutdown. Reports today that drive-by access to Mount Rushmore has been restricted. Also today revealed that the government website that supports the Amber Alert system for missing children was suspended, while the First Lady's anti-obesity website remained open. And it doesn't end there. Residents of Lake Mead, Nevada, forced out of their privately owned homes because they sit on federal lands. And numerous reports tonight of private businesses being forced to shutter because of their proximity to federal property. But there are signs that the administration is beginning to pay some attention to its own upside-down approval rating, which, by the way, did today improve but remains underwater, and paying some considerable attention to a market that is now weakened to a one-month low on Wall Street. The result, a clear signal from the president that he may finally be ready to negotiate despite his refusal. His aides say the president is now open to a short-term deal on the debt ceiling. President Obama chose to politicize the employees of the Federal Emergency Management Agency today, once again using them as props in a field trip aimed at raising the pressure on House Republicans to give in to his demands to end the shutdown. Fox News Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry with our report.
President Obama visited FEMA headquarters to blame Republicans for shutting the government down while a tropical storm was brewing this weekend. And he tried to call House Speaker John Boehner's bluff on his claim Sunday there are not enough votes to reopen the government without changing the health care law.
If Republicans and Speaker Boehner are saying there are not enough votes, then they should prove it. Let the bill go to the floor and let's see what happens. Just vote.
Boehner aides quickly noted the president could throw his support behind a bill they already passed to get the 86% of the FEMA workforce that's been furloughed back to work. And the speaker also warned Sunday the nation is on the path to default because the president will not consider any add-ons to legislation lifting the nation's debt ceiling.
The votes are not in the House to pass a clean debt limit. And the president is risking default by not having a conversation with us.
White House spokesman Jay Carney fired back. The president is not going to fund FEMA and other agencies in a piecemeal fashion, and flat out charged Boehner is prepared to wreck the economy simply because of internal party tensions with conservatives.
He will not raise the debt ceiling if Republicans do not get what they want. That's highly reckless and irresponsible.
That allegation came just hours after top White House economic advisor Gene Sperling spoke at a Politico breakfast and launched what Boehner quickly labeled an irresponsible attack.
The president strongly believes that if he were to sanction negotiations with those threatening default, that would actually increase, not decrease, the chances that we as a country undermine our full faith and credit.
Really? The president, I'm going to say this again, a senior White House staffer this morning said that the president would rather default on our debt than to sit down and negotiate. Now, the American people expect when their leaders have differences, and we're in a time of crisis, that we'll sit down and at least have a conversation.
That conversation is still stalled as Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid pushed forward today with a one-year extension to the debt ceiling, plus an immediate reopening of the government with no concessions from Democrats.
So I asked the Speaker, why are you afraid? Are you afraid this measure will pass, the government will reopen, and Americans will realize you took the country hostage for no apparent reason?
Except there was a tiny breakthrough today, when aides left the door open to the president signing extensions to the debt ceiling and opening the government for just a few weeks to create the space for broader budget talks.
If there's a shorter-term debt ceiling lift, will the president sign it?
Again, I'm not going to negotiate. We think that the Congress ought to raise the debt ceiling without drama or delay. If they do that, that's a great thing.
Democrats are tonight touting a new Washington Post ABC News poll that suggests 7 in 10 Americans disapprove of the way Republicans have handled this whole saga. But when you look closer at the details, 51% disapprove of the president's role and 61% disapprove of how congressional Democrats are handling it. So there's a lot of blame to go around, Lou.
Broad disapproval. And let me ask you this. Is there perhaps rising concern in the White House that this impasse is becoming, it seems at least in some quarters, all about the president's refusal to negotiate, as if he had no responsibility, as if he were not being reckless in seeking what he wants as he charged of the Republicans?
Well, I'll give you the official response, which is they insist in the building behind me that they don't feel like they're losing any ground and they're not giving anything. But I think the unofficial response, if you look just with your own eyes, as you suggest, and not listen to what officials are telling us, the fact that the White House today signaled after weeks and weeks of saying we're not going to negotiate over all of this, they had a tiny sliver of a crack there of giving in by saying, look, maybe the president will sign a short-term relief here in terms of reopening the government and getting the debt ceiling lifted, suggests maybe they want to get this fight past them and realize that maybe they're taking enough of a hit that they want to move on.
Ed, thank you very much. Ed Henry, Chief White House Correspondent. While the government shutdown slogs on into a second week, so does the inefficient opening to the Obamacare healthcare exchanges. The government working on those websites over the weekend and on into tonight, it turns out. But they have yet to reveal how many people have actually signed up for the new healthcare coverage. Fox News Chief National Correspondent Jim Engel with our report.
The Federal Healthcare Exchange website will be taken down again tonight, as it was over the weekend, as officials concede they're still trying to fix nagging problems for those trying to log on.
But we're not satisfied with the performance. We can do better, and to make further improvements, we are doing several things at once, including adding server capacity and making software changes to make the system more efficient to handle higher volume.
I don't think anyone anticipated quite this huge number of people who'd be calling in. So there were glitches. That was inevitable, but those glitches will be fixed.
Though officials are quick to cite the number of people who have logged on to the federal website, 8.6 million, they have steadfastly refused to say how many people have actually signed up for coverage, including the Treasury Secretary on Fox News Sunday.
How many actually signed up, sir?
You know, they have 6 months to sign up. This is a big decision. We never expect.
How many signed up?
I don't have the exact number, but the question isn't
how many. Do you
have
any number? Because the government has refused to tell us how many.
It's the wrong question.
Secretary Liu insisted the right question is simply how many people get online.
I'm going to ask it one last time, because, forgive me, sir, you haven't answered it. Do you not know how many people have signed up, which would seem to indicate another major software glitch, or is it that the number is embarrassingly small?
Chris, Our metric for this week was, could people get online, get the information they need to make an informed decision? They have been getting that information.
The White House spokesman has also repeatedly dodged any specific numbers.
What I can confirm right now is that people are signing up through federal exchanges. But we're not going to be this is an aggregation process, and we're not going to release data on an hourly or daily or weekly basis. All we can know now, and what we can tell you now, is that people are getting through the system. They are enrolling. No, we don't have that data, and we're focused on improving the consumer experience.
And supporters say eventually the current problems won't matter.
Look, if people get enrolled and they ultimately get enrolled on time, no one's going to remember the initial glitches.
Now, Lou, the White House says it won't be able to release numbers until next month when it has a better idea. Industry sources, however, tell a different story. When asked how the federal government could not know how many people have signed up, one knowledgeable source said flatly, they know. Another said emphatically, don't believe for a second they don't know. They just think, the source continued, that the numbers are now low and will look bad. Lou?
Jim, thank you. Jim Engel.